So the GoPro Hero 10 is here finally, and I've been using it for a bit, and I just want to share some of my cinematic settings that I actually have with this, and a couple of custom settings that I actually put on here as well. I did a video very similar to the GoPro Hero 9, but this thing is a complete dud, so we'll throw that off the table and stick with the GoPro Hero 10. But anyway, let's get into this video. We'll check out these settings, and I'll hopefully help you guys create some nice cinematic footage. All right, let's get it. Okay, so once you turn your GoPro on, essentially what we're going to be doing first is changing my region to PAL region. So this comes standard with generally at 60 Hertz, which is your NTSC. So PAL region gives you the frame rates of 25 frames per second, 50, 100, and 200 frames per second on the Hero 10, whereas 60 Hertz or NTSC gives you 24, 30, 60, 120, and 240 frames per second. Now to change this, swipe down and swipe to that side, go to Preferences, tap on General, and then go down to Anti-Flicker. Now see, it's on 60 Hertz, which is NTSC. I'm going to tap on 50 Hertz, which gives me the PAL region. So going back out, I'm all good with that. Lovely. Really like how it's a little bit laggy for me today. It's not really selling it. Now, I'm not sure what's going on. Click on that standard button here. So where it says standard or just this middle function, this brings up all your custom profiles. Now we're just going to change one custom profile for now, but I usually have 3 different custom profiles. Now just click on the top one and we'll start adjusting that one. Now my frames per second, I am actually going to put it up to 25 frames per second with 5.3K at resolution. Now we'll go to the lens. I'm going to bring this to linear plus horizon leveling. Now essentially that just keeps the horizon nice and level for you. If it does tilt this way or tilt that way a little bit, it'll keep the horizon nice and flat, which is a fantastic feature. Hyper smooth, I'll keep that on high. And in terms of boost, there's a custom button that I actually put on the main screen, so I will actually tell you guys about that a little bit later, but keep hyper smooth on high. Scheduled capture, keep it on off, keep it on off, keep it at off. Duration, no limit, hindsight is off, timer is off, and zoom is at 1 times. Now ProTune, this is where all the juicy stuff happens. This is all the main stuff here. So bitrate, I'm gonna actually change that from standard up to high. Now this gives me 100 megabits per second, which gives me the best detail, the best information into the recording as possible. So high bitrate is the best. So just like to interrupt here, I really want you guys to like this video because this helps push this video to more content creators out there and hopefully helping a lot more people when it comes to the GoPro Hero 10 settings. All right, back into the video. In terms of shutter, you do want to try and keep this at 1/50th or twice your frame rate. So take it off auto and go twice my frame rate. My frame rate's at 25 frames per second, so my shutter will be at 1/50th. Now to make this happen, you are going to have ND filters. Now these ND filters are by Freewell. They are fabulous. It cuts back on the light so I can keep that twice my frame rate for the shutter. Now if you are shooting action sports, I do suggest crank that shutter up a bit higher. Bring it to 1/400th or 1/200th, 1/100th. It makes the image look a lot sharper and much better for action sports. But if you want natural motion blur, twice your frame rate is the go. So 1/50th. EV compensation, that's if you're shooting it auto. White balance. White balance auto is actually pretty decent in the GoPro. I do like to keep mine at native because I do like color grading, and I will explain that in a second. But if you want to keep it at auto, I'm perfectly happy and fine with that. ISO, minimum 100, and maximum, I bring it down to 100 also. The higher the ISO, the more grain you're going to introduce into the image. So try and keep the ISO as low as possible and add in the light. If it is not possible to add in the light, then you will have to crank the ISO, and it is much grainier. Now this one is meant to be a little bit less grainy than the Hero 9, so there is some denoising software internally, but it's still not that great. Okay, so sharpness, I'm gonna go from medium to low. I actually love having this on low. I like that nice soft image. I don't like the digital sharpness. Now you can add the sharpness in post. I did a test with the Hero 9, I put it on low and then I actually added digital sharpness and it pretty much looked the same as medium or high, depending on how much sharpness you put. So put it on low and you can add it in post if you really, really want to. In terms of color, natural is pretty good. That's actually probably my favorite. You can put it on flat if you do want to do some color grading, but it is 8-bit codec and it is very difficult to color 8-bit, but flat gives you more options in post to color grade to your own personal style, but I'm gonna leave it at natural because it's pretty decent. It really depends on what I'm trying to match this with as well. If I'm just vlogging with this and doing the video by itself and not merging it in with the FX3 or FX6 or A7S III, I will just keep it at native. Now, raw audio. This really depends. If you are vlogging, then I will suggest turn the raw audio definitely to high, because this will actually give you a full processed separate audio track, and it is fabulous. You definitely need that if you are relying on the GoPro audio, but if you're not relying on the GoPro audio, you're just going to be burning into your SD card space and obviously into the battery as well. So I like to keep it off because I don't do too much vlogging on this. Now wind, I keep it at auto. It really depends. Sometimes I do use a little bit of the audio just for bits and pieces, but if you do film outside, I do suggest put the wind reduction on, definitely, because it does help quite a lot. Turning it off completely cuts that wind noise reduction. If you are recording indoors and there's no wind, it'll actually be much clearer because it's not processing and trying to remove that wind noise. Keep it on auto. Now the media mod, that's if you have the media mod on, and it'll actually allow you to select the camera mics. Now in terms of shortcuts, this one is where I put all my little shortcuts in. So lower left, I keep it on hyper smooth. Zoom, absolutely not. I actually put this onto shutter in case I do end up trying to change the shutter and dialing it in a little bit more. If I'm doing a little bit more high intensity stuff, I will just quickly change it through there. This one, I actually change it. Oh, killing me. ISO max, there we are. So ISO max, if I can't keep the ISO as low as possible at 100, I will have to boost it up if I can't add any more light in. I prefer to get the image rather than not get the image and it being completely underexposed and I can't see anything. Now, in terms of upper right, this really depends. It's just extra stuff. If you do end up doing this in auto, EV compensation is a really good one to sort of have there as well. Now these custom buttons really depend on how you like to make some adjustments, but that's kind of what I do there. Now in terms of the second custom profile, I like to set the second one into 4K at, okay, you can't change that, there you go. So if you have it in super view mode, it won't actually allow you to do a higher frame rate. So change the super view to linear first and then change the frame rate to 100. So 4K at 100 frames per second, this is going to be my slow motion setting. Now everything will be exactly the same as what I was showing you before, but the only difference is the shutter speed. If this stops becoming laggy, click it. There we go. Whoa. Hero 10 is, it's still a little bit laggy for me, unfortunately. What am I doing? So shutter will actually be twice your frame rate again. So 1/200th of a second this time. So make sure twice your frame rate is your shutter speed. So my frame rate is 100 frames per second, shutter speed will be at 1/200th. Okay, so once we do that one, completely do everything, go into a different one and we'll do a 5K at 50, so twice slow motion, and the settings will be exactly the same again, blah, blah, blah. We go into absolutely everything, change the shutter, twice your frame rate, which, you guessed it, 1/100th of a second. Anyway guys, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you found it useful. Comment below if you have any more questions on the settings or anything else about the GoPro Hero 10. I'm gonna be releasing a few more videos on this one. Sorry, I've been a bit busy with some of my commercial work, but hopefully I can find some time to make more videos for you guys. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. All right, let's get it.